So we always tell everybody, look, there's 4 ways to enhance your performance, right? The first one's age and maturity, right? The second one is a proper strength and conditioning program. The third one is an arm care program. And then the fourth one is throwing.
May I have your attention, please?
Everyone heater.
You're now listening to
Clear the mechanism.
The Robby Row Show. The Robby Row Show.
What's going on, guys? It's your boy Robby rolling. Episode 43 of the Robby Row Show. Today I got Mike Reinold on the podcast, so get pumped. I'm not going to go too much into detail as far as who Mike is, because he goes into more detail than I would go into right now on who he is, why he's the absolute man, and what he's doing now. So definitely an absolute treat. Him and I, we go into... just give you a little layout of the land. We talk about what's it like working behind Dr. James Andrews, who's obviously the leader in Tommy John reconstructive surgery. We talk a little bit about how to deal with injuries as an athlete, mentally, physically, and I think the biggest takeaway from this episode was definitely the 4 ways to enhance performance as a baseball player, as an athlete, I guess, in general. So be sure to get the notepad out for this one, because he drops some truth bombs, but obviously dive into the more popular topics as far as how to increase velocity, weighted balls, dangers of elbow layback, talking about some long toss things, basically all the necessities of how, a younger athlete can really optimize performance on the field. So yeah, like I said, don't want to spend a whole lot of time talking about it. It's a nice short and quick episode. Dive into a lot of the good details right away. So, I'd encourage you to make some notes, because there's some good stuff, or even better, subscribe to the podcast, listen to it, and download it as many times as you possibly can. Subtle plug. So yeah, with that being said, I'd like to thank the sponsor of this podcast and Pocket Radar. Pocket Radar is a tool that we can utilize to understand what our ball speeds are. That goes for pitchers and hitters alike. I talk about it a lot on this show, about the importance of knowing, how fast you're throwing, how fast you're hitting the ball. And it gives you the ability to kind of track your progress too, which I think is huge, especially in today's, game where the demand for power output numbers is just so high. So I'd like to thank Pocket Radar for sponsoring this show for this month. They're doing a great thing. Make sure to go check them out. I put some links in the show notes for where you guys can go look at that, as well as links for how to find Mike Reinold on the internet, the World Wide Web. You can also see him on Instagram. I think it's just at Mike Reinold, MikeReinold. But be sure to go check out his Instagram and even his Twitter. He just does some great things, man. Like, his attention to detail in his posts are so informative. And coming from a guy that knows how much work that goes into those things, man, it's no easy task. But thanks to Mike for taking about 30 minutes out of his day to come on the show. Thanks to Pocket Radar for sponsoring the show, and thank you to you guys for listening, making me feel special, even though I know you're not listening because of my voice. Or maybe you are. I'd appreciate it if you are. Anyways, I'm in Colorado right now, and it snowed last night, and I don't know what to do. I've never been around snow. I'm a California boy. I don't know why I'm talking about this on this show. Anyways, Robby rolling here. Follow me on Instagram, Robby Row 12. That's Robby with a Y, ROBBYROW 12. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, therobbyrow.com. Hit me up. All right, guys. Well, without further ado, here is Mike Reinold. Thanks, guys. All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, another episode of the Robby Row Show, episode 43. I am accompanied by a special guest, Mike Reinold. Mike, welcome to the show, man. How you doing today?
Thanks, Robby. Thanks for having me, man. This is obviously an honor to be be on the podcast, man.
Stop.
Yeah, dude, you've been crushing it. You're all the way at 43 now. It seems like you just started. That was, it was good stuff, man. You're getting better at it too. I've been witnessing the development of your skills. I like it.
Yeah, dude. That honestly means a whole lot coming from a guy like you. So I highly appreciate that. It's funny. I just had a conversation today with someone in the weight room, and I was like, when I first started this, dude, I was like super detailed. Like I think even when I recorded Nick Esposito's podcast, I like had a bunch of notes written down and was like, okay, we're going to talk about this, that. And just super structured, right? And now, as I've kind of progressed, it's like, yo, let's just wing it. Like, I feel like
right.
The audience kind of respects more just random conversation a little bit more.
I agree.
So it's funny how it's coming like full circle. But again, I appreciate that, dude. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day. I know you're a busy guy. But let's freaking dive in, dude. For my listeners that don't quite know you, first of all, they're probably living under a rock. Second of all, can you give them like a brief, background? I know that's a pretty loaded question of who you are and kind of where you came from and how you got to where you are now.
That's a big question. That's like a 20-year question.
I know.
I like that. So, well, I guess in a nutshell, I'm a physical therapist, probably first and foremost by trade, but I'm also an athletic trainer and a strength coach. So, really worked in baseball my whole kind of career. Back in the 90s when I was while I was still in school, I kind of, I tried to seek out the best and find like who are the best like leaders in sports medicine and baseball. And at the time, and it's still true to this day, but at the time that was ASMI, the American Sports Medicine Institute, and Dr. James Andrews down in Birmingham, Alabama. So, I went down there. I did, an internship. I did some research projects. I ended up doing a fellowship, and I ended up working there. It's like one of those things where you're like, I'm from Boston, right? Like, I don't want to move to Alabama, right? And you end up being down there for a really long time because it's such a great environment to, just work with, hundreds and hundreds of, I don't even know how many, just, injured baseball players that, it was amazing to be able to work with Dr. Andrews and, really be, on the cutting edge of how we get these guys back to sport.
Right.
So from there, I got super lucky. That was kind of like, in the early 2000s, Theo Epstein, GM of the Cubs, he was with the Red Sox at the time, and he had the foresight of saying like, hey, I think the next future for baseball is to really enhance the medical, almost be like the medical Moneyball kind of concept. So Theo kind of sought out somebody that was good, with pitchers and baseball sports medicine, and I got super lucky that he essentially found me, right? So that was kind of my dream job. That was kind of what I was doing it for. So over the years, I worked my way up, became head athletic trainer, kind of reorganized their whole medical department. I did that for 7 seasons with the Sox, and now we opened up our own place up outside Boston called Champion PT and Performance, and do a ton of baseball stuff. With a bunch of stuff from sports performance to skill development to arm care programs. It's pretty neat. So and that's about as brief as I could make.
That was really good.
That was long. I didn't even elaborate. It was like zero elaboration, but it was just you got to tell your story.
That's what makes it good, because now the audience has to go, okay, I want to know more. And then on my part, what I do is I link like all your sites. I'll link your blog. I'll link your website. I'll link all your profiles into the show notes of this episode. So we keep it brief on here, and then it's their job, if they want to know more, to go ahead and check out those show notes and click those links. So it works out.
Awesome.
What I'm curious, dude. Obviously, when you say the name like James Andrews, right? Like that's a big time baseball name. So to work under him, probably just taken away just so much. What are some of the biggest takeaways from that kind of experience in your life?
Well, the biggest thing working down there in terms of like development was that, you learn how to interact. You learn how to be like, a team physician almost, even though I'm not a physician. That's what I learned from Dr. Andrews, like how to be a team sports medicine person, and how it's about being there for the players and being there for the team and putting that stuff first. It's his work ethic and the way he puts himself out there to help people is truly amazing. But, the real benefit though, and honestly, more than anything else, is just simply reps, right? I don't know. I've probably done in the thousands of Tommy John rehabs at this point. You know what I mean? Like you just you see so many over time that I'm telling you, when you go see Dr. Andrews, there is zero doubt when he gives you a recommendation, right? Because it's really hard to trick him, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like you're never going to be the guy that's like, oh, wow, I've never seen that before, right? Because he's seen everything at this point. So, I think that was one of my biggest benefits. I think at this point in my career, now it's almost 20 years now. I mean, I think it's just really hard to trick me when it comes to baseball injuries, right? We've seen so many. Like, you're not going to ever come to me and be like, well, geez, I have no idea why you can't pitch. Sorry, dude. Right. It's usually, well, we've seen this before and, it is what it is. But
it's funny. It's funny you mentioned that. I'm working with, you probably know him, Josh Heenan right now. And we're trying to figure out this grade 2 lat strain that's for some reason just giving us such a trouble, man. Cause like we're finding out now that it stemmed from a trunk stability issue and, not the right muscles are firing, the lat wants to overcompensate. So learning about that, just from a, personal side has like been just really eye opening, knowing that there's so much more that goes into it. Than just like the lat, is kind of looking into it from a bit major scope there.
Right. I mean, lats suck. We always kind of say that, like, that's lat's one of the rare injuries. Like, I'm pretty aggressive. I shouldn't say aggressive. That's the wrong word, but like, I don't play scared with my rehabs. Right.
Right.
But, with a lat, it's usually one of those things. It's like, all right, great. Let me know when you feel better. And then we'll wait 2 more weeks. It's like one of those weird ones because it's just so heavily involved and dynamic in the throwing motion that, once it's damaged, you really got to let that heal up, and you really don't want to pull that off because that would be really bad.
Oh yeah, and for me, it's crazy how much it wants to take over, like in everything too.
Right.
Just understanding the body, obviously, and the way the body moves and how it recruits different muscles and sometimes overcompensates. Like learning all about that. I'm sure you can like relate. Is just super fascinating. You really want to just get down to the nitty gritty details and figure it out.
Absolutely.
But
everybody's a puzzle. That's how I kind of think of it, right? So the way that's a bit of a puzzle. Like you might have 2 people with a lat strain, but everybody's slightly different, right? And you got to figure out why. And the analogy we always say is you gotta find that rock in your shoe, right?
Mm-hmm.
You gotta find out what your rock is, right? Because you get that thing that's been digging into you and bugging you for so long. You got to figure out what that is for you, and everybody's rock's a little bit different.
Yeah, and find that root problem. So this is an interesting and good topic. I think it's no like secret that we're seeing like more the injuries on the rise. Like we're seeing more guys get hurt, and the thing that I want to dive into, and I get asked this a lot, as far as like how to tackle a rehab process, right? And I think it's huge to kind of come at it with like the right mindset, and obviously in your frame of work, like you see tons of guys going through that process. So what are some like tips and tricks to give some younger guys that maybe are in that same boat as I am right now, where you're injured and you've gotten your sport taken away, and now it's trying to find that fire to get back into it.
Yeah, I mean, that is probably one of the most common things that we hear, right? But, we always try to tell people, and this is especially important with not even just like the big injuries, but the small injuries over time, is that like, look, when you're injured and you're kind of like scuffling a little bit, you're pitching at like 80, 90% or whatever it may be, right? Mm-hmm. You're not performing to your best. You're not competing. You're probably not helping your team win as much as you can. Like, you got to take a step back and think, as much as it stinks that you're on the DL or whatever it may be, you got to realize that it's probably not best for the team, but most importantly, it's not best for you, mm-hmm. right? You think about it, like we have all these high school kids that want to go to these showcases when they're like 80%. And I'm like, all you're going to do is just prove to everybody that you suck at baseball, right? You don't want to go there at 80% and look really bad, Right, so, right. It's all about like being intelligent and thinking that like, hey, sometimes you got to put your head down, take a step back, and get right, because that's what's best for you and the team.
Yeah, so that kind of stems another question. Obviously, it's going to be of the loaded variety, but just a little background, I guess, on my audience is I get like a lot of younger athletes that are really seeking out that information, right? Or I'll get some parents that are seeking out information for their younger athletes. But a big one that comes up, I'm sure you hear it all the time, is like movement, mobility, strength, stability, like all of that. Like, where do you rank those of importance, and what should we do as athletes to really optimize just overall health?
Can I save honestly say that I rank them equally, or is that a cop out? Is that not?
No, because I feel like that's the right answer. But no one wants to hear that, right?
I'll take it even a step further back, actually, a little bit, and talk about it more. But everybody wants to talk about, hey, how can I enhance my performance, especially with pitching, right? Essentially, how can I throw harder? How can I be a better baseball pitcher, right? And what they do is they Google it all day. They do their best to try to figure out what it is, and they find this one magic thing, right? And if anybody listening golfs, then they understand there's a million $20 golf training aids that are out there, right? That every hack golfer will buy because they're trying to get better at golf, and they realize that you're focusing on the frosting before you've even baked the cake. That's kind of the phrase I like to say with that. So we always tell everybody, look, there's 4 ways to enhance your performance, right? The first one's age and maturity, right? The second one is a proper strength and conditioning program. The third one is an arm care program. And then the fourth one is throwing, right? And I'll break them down a little bit more in detail a little bit, but you got to understand that it has to go, and it has to probably go in that order. But the first one's age and maturity. And the reason why I say that is I can't tell you how many 14-year-olds are like, hey, I really want to do this weighted ball program. What do you think? Right? And well, you're 14, right? You're skeletally mature. You're not quite ready for that. I think there's about a million other things you need to do first before you start trying to push your velocity. I hate to say it, but your velocity is less than all your teammates because you haven't gone through puberty yet, right? And that's really all it is, right? So, the standard deviation of kids maturing is plus or minus 2 years, right? So you're going to have some 14-year-olds that look like a 12-year-old and some 14-year-olds that look like a 16-year-old. Mm-hmm. Which one do you think is going to throw harder, right? It's just common sense, right? So you got to do that. And I always give these little stats, for each year you age and for each inch you grow, you literally gain 1.5 miles per hour. Mm-hmm. That's been scientifically proven, right? And everybody wants to come up with all these other equations and stuff like that. But literally, just get older and grow, and your velocity is going to go up, right? Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the basis behind it. So that's your foundation. Is look, you got to be skeletally mature as you grow. Focus on a strength and conditioning program, but not a knucklehead one that's built for football players, the one that's built for rotary sports. Mm-hmm. So you're developing the right strength, the right power, linear, rotational power, those types of things to have a really strong kind of body that can actually get the amount of force that you need through the body to actually produce velocity. And then third is arm care, right? Nobody really talks about that. No 14-year-old has ever heard of arm care. But I'll tell you, if your shoulder's not strong and your shoulder's not stable, right? I mean, that's the secret that every big leaguer, knows that the kids don't know. If they don't do that, I don't really care how far you throw or how heavy of a ball you're throwing against the wall. None of that matters if you can't control it. You can't keep your arm in your socket, So, you got to kind of build those things. So, what's the best velocity program in the world? It's get a little older, get a little stronger, get a strong cuff, and you're going to develop over time. Mm-hmm. But, we're seeing all these injuries because we have all these knucklehead kids that are trying to push velocity before their body's ready for it. And again, they're just going out of order, mm-hmm. right? So, you need to be mobile, you need to be strong, you need to be stable, you need to have all those things. But you got to slowly build that. And I think you got to do it in the right order and the right timing. I think that's why we're screwing up and we're seeing all these injuries is people are just pushing it too far and they're looking for the shortcut, right? It's cool to do a run and gun with a 2-ounce ball on Instagram, right? That's cool, right? Doing a rotator cuff exercise. Boring. Nobody wants to do a cuff exercise, right? But I'll tell you, every big leaguer I've worked with, and I've worked with hundreds, right? They all do that, and none of them really do that other stuff that you see on Instagram, right? It's come on, it's just
well,
different.
that's the day and age we live in, right? And I bring this up constantly on my show to get it out there. Is one, we live in a very instant gratification society, and two, we live in a very connected society where it's all about gaining popularity, and especially if you're talking through social media. Like you said, dude, I fall victim of it too. Obviously you want the attention, you want people to know you're working hard, but I think there's a lot of times it's in the wrong context, right? You don't want to take anything away from the work ethic, but at the same time, I'm always a firm believer in smarter, not harder. How can we go about this at the very most efficient way? But that's why I love accounts like you, man. Because it's I mean, you break it down to the T, and I commend you because I know how freaking time consuming all those posts are. So for those of you guys listening, make sure to go check out his Instagram page because he does a great job. But you mentioned, I don't think I can have this podcast without talking about like some sort of weighted ball, right? That's the hot topic. Kids are all over it because obviously it's all over social media. And I know, I don't know when it was, but I know you did like a 6-week controlled study of that. And I want to say like the conclusion was, correct me if I'm wrong, was something of like improved external rotation, but increase in injury. Can you elaborate on kind of like what you saw from that?
Yeah, absolutely. We've actually done a few stages of those studies now. So, to actually produce real research, like quality research that gets published in like a peer-reviewed scientific journal, it actually takes a really long time.
Oh, yeah.
Right. It's putting stuff on your website is nice, but it's not really. That's not real science. You know what I mean? Like, you got to actually go through this. So, we went through this big project. We actually teamed up with Dr. Andrews and Dr. Fleissig from ASMI so that we all kind of collaborated on putting together these studies. And essentially the first one we did is we did a 6-week program with weighted balls. And we found that, yes, throwing weighted balls over a 6-week program in high school age kids, yes, it helped increase their velocity. Off the top of my head, it's close with the numbers. About 80% of the kids went up in velocity. Mm-hmm. But, something to keep in mind was not only did it not work for everybody, but 12%, they went down. They actually went down, right? And those are probably the kids that they weren't ready for. They weren't supposed to be doing it, right? They cut corners. They shouldn't have necessarily maybe done it, right? So, but something to also keep in mind, we're talking about high school age kids, it was almost 70% of the control group that didn't do weighted balls also went up in velocity, right? So yes, the weighted ball group went up in velocity more. So we know weighted balls work, but we're still trying to figure out why they work. And I will tell you that most of the things you see on the internet, like helping with your mechanics, hasn't been proven. And we haven't found any difference in mechanics before and after weighted balls. Stuff like neuromuscular patterning, I don't even know what that means. I think it's just like a phrase like that. That
sounds smart.
Yeah, that doesn't mean anything either. That certainly doesn't work, right? So the only thing we do know from weighted balls right now is that they do work, right? They work a little bit. I can tell you dozens of other things that also work. But it's not just weighted balls. But what we found, and I think the real staggering thing that we found here was that they work probably by increasing the amount of layback in your shoulder. So you can actually externally rotate or you get more layback in your shoulder.
Right.
And we found that has been correlated to both velocity as well as increased torque on the body, which means more injuries. So we did find a higher group of injuries. 23% of our kids got injured to some extent. Now we were, we shut them down pretty quick, and we didn't, let these linger, but, we had almost a quarter of the kids, have injuries to some extent on this program. So, the question is they work? Yes. I mean, how effective are they compared to other methods? I think that's still debatable. But the real question is at what cost, right? So, yes, they may work, but I think it just shows that, we're definitely overdosing here. But, what happens though is if we're increasing layback, that's pretty amazing. That's actually pretty crazy. That's so it's awesome that works, but it's also really scary at the same time. So we did a second phase of our study. So now we tried to say let's not completely bastardize weighted balls. Maybe it's just certain things. And what we did is we did before and after range of motion measurements of their shoulder now after different weights of the balls. And what we found is the heavier you go, obviously, the more layback you get. What we had essentially was kids were going up about 8 to 10 degrees of layback immediately after throwing weighted balls, which is definitely why it helps. It's definitely why you get increased velocity. But
that's a lot. I mean, shoot.
Trust me, when we were measuring it, it was like you measured and you're like, oh crap.
That's crazy.
So I'll be honest with you, I'm done. I'm done researching weighted balls because it's too much. This is too much. They're useful, but man, are we getting carried away with this sort of thing? They're useful for a very a small percentage of people at the right time. And I hate to say it, but if you can go up 9 degrees of external rotation, 9 degrees of layback by just throwing the ball 20 times, then I don't think you need to throw weighted balls all freaking winter. Right. I just think you can use them as a warm up before you pitch. And I think that might be even more effective. And then you're not putting so much stress on your body all freaking winter. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. Do you know of I know a lot of kids are listening right now. They're saying, okay, I need to increase layback. Now, are there other tools that we can utilize to do that, therefore increasing ball speed?
No, so you don't want to increase layback.
Okay.
So you get late. You do, but it's not going to work well. Like you don't nicely increase layback. Like that's actually a concern if you're increasing layback. That's a real physical concern if that happens. Like we don't like that.
The elbow's
so
exposed.
The way you
it's vulnerable.
Oh man, it's extremely stressful. That's definitely why we're getting these increase in injuries is just we're increasing the amount of torque on the body through doing this. So the real way you gain layback is you need to throw a lot when your growth plates are open, right? And that has this like torquing of your arm bone that allows you to get into layback, right? And remember throwing like a girl, which by the way doesn't really exist. Remember we used to say like, oh, throw like a girl.
Biggest insult in the schoolyard.
Right, no doubt, right? But back in the 60s, 70s, girls didn't play sports. So they did not throw a ball when their growth plates were open. So they did not develop layback. So what we actually found in baseball players is you don't gain layback. What happens is your bone shifts. And that's why you lose the other direction. You lose internal rotation. It's because you're gaining external rotation, right? So I hate to say it, but I think I could invent and I could market and I could sell the most effective velocity program of all time and become a mega millionaire. You know what that program is?
Layback.
Play light catch every day when your growth plates are open. Just play light catch with your dad every day when your growth plates are open. That's it. Light catch. You don't need to go crazy.
Now, does everyone's growth plates vary?
What's that?
I said, does everyone's because you say, you got to wait till they're open. So now does that vary per individual or is there a specific time frame that is?
Oh yeah, it definitely varies. Because remember that plus or minus 2 years that we kind of talked about. Some kids will mature faster. But look, when you're 12, the most important program you could do is literally just play light catch all winter.
Yeah.
That's it. You don't need to throw pens. You don't need to be doing lessons. You know what I mean? Now, don't get me wrong. You can do that sort of stuff. But I'm telling you, you'd give me all this money, you'd pay for it, and then you'd download this ebook, and then you'd open it up. And it's just going to say step 1, play light catch a lot when your growth plates are open. Because that is going to develop that layback, and that is going to develop what you need. Because if you don't get that, right, and you don't have that, your chances of developing are just not good. Right? You're just not going to necessarily do it. So you have a bit of a problem. So now if you're 18, your growth plates are closed and you have no layback and you're trying to do something like weighted balls to try to gain that layback, you'll gain it. But the question is how?
What do you cost?
What are you tearing? What are you ripping? Right. And you're ripping through all your static stabilizers, your ligaments, your capsule. And that's why we're seeing all these kids just kind of hurt themselves. They don't understand it. It's actually way more simple than we give it credit. Right.
Yeah.
It's just really
usually how it works too, right?
I feel yeah, right. I know. I'm going to make that an Instagram post. We'll see if that goes viral, but I'm going to say, I'm gonna release that to the world. It's my absolutely free, mega, super happy fun velocity program.
I'm going to steal it from you and become a mega. So before we jump off here, I do want to touch on another very highly popular, increasing velocity topic, and that's long toss. Now, obviously there's people out there that are pro, they're anti long toss. Where do you stand as far as kids developing velocity through increasing distance on their throw?
So again, if you're throwing when your growth plates are open, then throwing anything is going to help establish that layback, which is pretty effective. So long toss kind of matters and it kind of helps with that. I think in a nutshell, here's what happens. Your body doesn't know what you're doing to it. It doesn't know what you're throwing. It doesn't know where you're throwing. It doesn't know if it's long tossing. It doesn't know if it's throwing a rock at your little sister. It doesn't know, right? It just knows stress. So what we know with long toss is once you get out past 120 or so, and with weighted balls, by the way, when you put them together, the stress on the body equals or surpasses the stress on the mound. Okay, so that's all you need to know. So remember, your body doesn't care what you're doing. It doesn't know what the hell long toss is. It doesn't know what a weighted ball is. It just knows, there's some stress into layback I need to develop, right? That sort of thing. So what happens is all winter long, you're long tossing, you're throwing weighted balls, you're doing those things. Let me ask you a question from your perspective. Would you ever tell a 12-year-old kid to throw a bullpen 3 times a week all winter?
No.
Okay, so your body doesn't know the difference. When you're long tossing 3 times a week, or you're doing weighted balls 3 times a week, or whatever you may be doing, you're putting the same amount of stress on the body.
Yeah.
Right. So that, look, these are all useful tools. You just got to understand what they are. And they're much more simple than they are. It's not about neuromuscular patterning or timing or mechanics. It's just about the stress on the body. You have to apply that intelligently and at the right time.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's tough for kids, I think, because, I mean, what 14-year-old kid's going to know exactly like what to do, right? Obviously, there's tons of information, and some of it's skewed and whatever, and they just want to get better, right?
Right. Yeah, and I get it. Like the it's very persuasive on the internet right now. So and again, I don't think anybody's wrong. I just think everybody, I think you got to take a step back and just call a spade and just say like, hey, throwing any object is a certain amount of stress that we're applying to our body. Right. And you just have to do that at the right time. And long toss and weighted balls and bullpens, all those things apply different amounts of stress. You just apply them at the right times and it works. You apply them too much and you break down. I mean, it's really that simple. Like, I hate to like oversimplify the process, but I don't know. Kids have to realize that long toss isn't like necessarily safe or unsafe. Right. It's just stress. And if you overstress your body, it's just not gonna go well.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Well, I want to be respectful of your time, dude. But before we get off here, can you tell the audience where they can find you as far as like the internet, social media, all those things?
Yeah, I'm easy. My hub's just kind of like my name. My website's just MikeReinold.com. I got a bunch of stuff there. We actually started a pretty neat baseball website because we wanted to kind of get some more like, scientifically based information out there that's unbiased. It's not like tied towards like marketing or making money off a certain product or anything like that. But we started that. It's called EliteBaseballPerformance.com. And we think it's, we're just trying to have like a nice site where there's some quality education that's not linked to you necessarily buying something, right? Because I just think that needs to get out there. Like, the kids need to learn these things and not get kind of, like fooled by marketing sometime.
Absolutely, man. That's huge. Well, again, dude, thank you so much for your time, and it's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Rob.
All right, man.
Thanks for having me, man. Good luck with the rest of the podcast.
Appreciate you, dude. Have a good one. See ya. All right, guys, that's another episode of The Robby Row Show. Do me a favor, if you liked the episode, or even if you didn't like it, go ahead and leave me a review on whatever platform you're listening to. Not only does it help me out with popularity on my show, but it also helps me out as a host of this podcast. Sometimes I don't know if I'm getting better, if I'm getting worse, and I need y'all's opinions. So go ahead and leave a review and let me know what you thought. So again, thank you so much. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Until next time, Robby Rollin', The Robby Row Show. Your boy's out. Later.